بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So we're going to start Kitab al-Siyam, which is the book of fasting, inshallah, because Ramadan is coming soon. Siyam in the Arabic language is imsak, which means to abstain from. An-Nabigha al-Biyani, he's one of the poets from Jahili times, one of the famous Arab poets. He said, خَيْرٌ صِيَامٌ وَخَيْرٌ غَيْرُ صَائِمَةٍ تَحْتُ الْعَجَاجِ وَأُخْرَى تَعَلُّقُ اللُّجُمَا. Basically, like he's bragging about his horses. He has so many horses. He's saying that خَيْرٌ صِيَامٍ, some horses that are held back, like they're tied down. وَخَيْرٌ غَيْرُ صَائِمَةٍ, and some horses that are set free. They're not held back, right? They're not being, stopped, basically. And then he's saying وَأُخْرَى تَعَلُّقُ اللُّجُمَا, and some that are like with the things on, the mask, basically ready to go for war or ready to go for whatever. Like he's in those times it was very rare to have lots of horses unless you're very rich. So the poet is bragging basically in Jahiliyyah. But the point is, the word siyam means like being held back or holding back, right? Imsak. In the Sharia, it's imsakun makhsusun fi zamanin makhsusun min shakhsin makhsus. So it's a specific type of abstaining or holding back from a specific person at a specific time. And we'll go through the details. Another scholar, they say, imsak an shahwatay al-batni wal-farj min turu' al-fajr ila ghurub al-shams. So withstanding or holding back the desires, your lower desires of the stomach, food and drink, or anything that goes in its place, and your private area, basically your desires, sexual desires, you're holding them back from the rise of the Fajr until the sunset, basically. So that's the other definition of Siyam. And it's wajib, obviously, fard upon every Muslim. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, kutiba alaykum as-siyamu, kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum, la'allakum tattaqun. That Siyam, fasting, has been prescribed for you or made obligatory upon you, as it is made obligatory upon those before you, so that you may achieve taqwa. So from the purposes of Siyam is to achieve taqwa and to fulfill the obligation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put upon us. Also from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Al-Islamu an tashhada an la ilaha illallah wa anni Rasulullah wa tuqim as-salat wa tu'ti zakat wa tusum Ramadan wa tuhajj al-bayt. So basically that from the 5 pillars or arkan of Islam is fasting, right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, in another narration he said that Islam is built upon 5 things, and from them is fasting. So it's obligatory from the Kitab, the Book of Allah, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and Ijma' of the Ummah, right? It's fasting upon every Muslim who is able to do so, and we'll get into the details of those. Is fasting better than prayer? There's actually a dispute amongst the scholars. That's how great Siyam is, right? So we know that the best deed you can do after Tawheed in general, we're taught, is the Salat. But some scholars say it's the Siyam, because there's a hadith Qudsi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُلُّ عَمَلِ ابْنِ آدَمْ يُضَاعَفْ الْحَسَنَ عَشْرَ أَمْثَالِهَا إِلَى 700 ضَعْفًا قال إِلَّا الصَّوْمَ فَإِنَّهُ لِي وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ. So he said in the hadith Qudsi that Allah says that every action for the child of Adam is increased from 10 to 700 times, to as much as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, right? Except fasting, it is for me and I will reward accordingly. So Allah is prescribing fasting, He's attributing it to Himself. He's saying, it is for me and I will reward accordingly. So the scholars, they say, from such a great statement from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the fasting is held in very high level. But Allahu Alam, the stronger opinion is the Salah is the greatest action you can do after the Shahada. But Siyam is very high up too. And whoever says that the fasting is not obligatory, or says you don't have to fast, has actually committed an act of kufr. And some scholars, they say that one who leaves the fast has committed an act of kufr, right? So it's very important to fulfill this obligation, inshallah, learn its ahkam, its rulings, how to do it properly, what to abstain from. And as a Muslim in general, quickly, this is a special time that we're praying for to meet Ramadan, and we should study and learn how to fast and get ourselves purified inwardly and outwardly to face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to get this great worship. The Sahaba, they used to wait and call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 6 months of the year that they would reach Ramadan, and for the rest of the year they would ask Allah that they accept Ramadan from them, right? And then there's a hadith, a narration that is attributed to the Prophet ﷺ, who says that may Allah bless us in Ch.1 and let us reach Ramadan, right? To kind of encourage us to get ready for Ramadan. And also we should try our best, to obviously during the fast abstain from haram deeds, of course. And a person who doesn't pray, according to some scholars, is not really being a Muslim. So therefore, those who follow that opinion say that their fasting is not acceptable either. So obviously, you want to pray during the month of Ramadan. You want to pray every time, but especially in Ramadan. Keep up with your prayers. Abstain from the haram. Do everything you can to make this like a special, blessed time that you reap the rewards from. So the Imam, he starts off, يجب صيام رمضان على كل مسلم بالغ عاقل قادر على الصوم. That fasting in Ramadan is mandatory upon every sane adult Muslim who is capable of fasting, right? Ramadan, it comes from the word Ramada, which kind of means to scorch or to burn, right? You say Ramadat al-ard, that the earth became scorched or burned, very, very hot, right? There's a kind of like a statement that the Arabs used to say, المستجير بعمد عند كربته كالمستجير من الرمضاء بالنار. This man, it's a longer story, but to summarize, he was stuck in a desert about to die basically, and Amr, this person was passing by, and he didn't help him, right? So he said that the one who seeks help from Amr is like the one who seeks help upon the Ramda, the hot dirt, the sand, the very hot sand with fire. Right, that's how he's saying. So it's basically he's no help whatsoever. So that comes from the old Arabic language. It shows the meaning that it means to burn or to scorch, or parchedness. Also, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Salat al-awwabin, إذا رمضت الفصال." That the salat of the awwabin, the duha prayer, the ones who are like repenting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, come back to Allah, is when the time when the earth becomes so hot, the desert, sand becomes so hot that the baby camels, they like have to run across. They can't stay on it because it's too hot for their hooves, right? So that's the other word Ramadan comes from. They say that Ramadan was named because it came about in a very hot time. The Arabs named it Ramadan, just like Rabi'a was named, during the springtime. It was a nice time of the year. Other scholars say that it's because just the meaning of how it burns in Ramadan. And some say the Islamic, Allah named the month Ramadan because it burns away the sins, or because, of the hotness, you're very thirsty, so it's like a burning, scorching, parched feeling inside. You need to drink water to extinguish that burning sensation. All these are, the general meaning of what Ramadan is. So it's a special month, a blessed month, as we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He chooses certain times and certain places and gives them benefit and blessings above others, right? So what kind of places are blessed above others, for example? Places. Yeah. Mecca, Medina, Quds, Jerusalem, right? And the masajid in general, right? These are blessed places. Times, what are blessed times? Ramadan, mashallah, the most blessed month of the year is Ramadan, right? What are the best 10 days of the year? The 10 days of the Hijjah. The best 10 nights of the year? The last 10 nights of Ramadan. The best day of the week? Jum'ah. The best night of the year? Laylatul Qadr. The best day of the year? Eid al-Adha, Yawm al-Nahr, the day of sacrifice, or the day of Eid al-Adha, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's given certain times and certain places blessings above others, so we should take advantage of these times and places, especially this month of Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ said that whoever fasts Ramadan with iman and taking hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all his sins will be forgiven, right? Man sama Ramadana imanan wa ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi. All his previous sins will be erased. So it's a beautiful time to make tawbah to Allah, to come back to Allah and start like a fresh leaf, right? To wipe out all these previous sins that we messed up from last Ramadan to this Ramadan. Inshallah, try to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From the wisdoms of fasting, first and foremost is fulfilling the obligation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? As Muslims, we say that we submit to Allah. He ordered us to fast, so we are fasting, right? Also, we are sharing the characteristic of the believers before us. Like Allah says, كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم, right? What are some other wisdoms you think you can derive from the fasting? Reaching taqwa, achieving taqwa, very important. Learning patience and sabr. abstination, discipline, right? If you can abstain from things that are halal for you, food and drink and being with your wife, these are halal acts that you're allowed to do, right? And you're stopping yourself from doing that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how about when it comes to haram stuff, right? Allah is teaching us if we can abstain from these halal things, then you can abstain from the haram things, right? It says self-discipline, self-control, patience. You know you have a greater goal to achieve, so you have to sacrifice to get to that goal, right? Sacrifice actually in English, it comes from the Latin, which means to make sacred. It's special, something special that deserves its worth of, or high worth of something. Others that some scholars say it's physically, healthy for a person to fast. It gives the body time to rest from food and drink and excess. It can get rid of toxins. If you do it rightly, I'm not talking about like how some people, they stuff themselves from Maghrib until Fajr, constantly eating and drinking, and they defeat the purpose. But if you fast like the Prophet ﷺ taught us to fast, and break the fast accordingly, then you will have a lot of health benefits from it as well. And then some scholars say too that you kind of feel what the poor go through on a daily basis. Like you have the opportunity to break your fast. Even though you're hungry throughout the day, maybe you get thirsty, you get tired, but then you go home and you have a nice meal and you feel comforted, right? But a poor person, sometimes he's not able to ever lose that feeling of hunger or thirst. So it gives you a little taste of what they go through all the time. You just have to do it some of the times. So it helps you feel more sympathy towards them. And there's many, many more wisdoms. We can go through the whole night basically mentioning the wisdoms of fasting in Ramadan and the ways that it helps us get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? But just know that it's a very special ibadah. It's something that the scholars say why it's one of the reasons it's so special is that nobody really knows that you're fasting except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? It's complete ikhlas. Because a person can fake it and like eat and no one will know. Right? So only Allah knows. That's why when you have a deed that's closer to ikhlas, it's a greater reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And then you have in the fasting in general, in Ramadan, they say the regular fast is for those who abstain from food, drink, the sexual desires. And then they say the one who goes beyond that is the one that abstains from wasteful talk and wasteful speech, wasting any time. And then beyond that is basically like his whole time is filled with worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the special things of Ramadan and when you're fasting is the whole time you're fasting, you're in a state of worship, right? So anything else you add to it, you're just increasing that worship. Reading the Quran, doing the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, staying away from sinful things, not wasting your time, lowering your gaze, not watching things that you shouldn't be watching. All this month is to get you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we ask Allah that we can reach Ramadan and benefit from this month, inshallah, and come out better than we went into it. So he says it's mandatory upon every Muslim. So first of all, you have to be Muslim for your deeds to be accepted. That's one of the requirements for the fasting to be accepted. There's a difference of opinion if somebody left Islam and then he came back to becoming Muslim. Is he obligated to make up those fasts that he missed? Some scholars say that he has to make them up. The stronger opinion, Wallahu Alam, is that he doesn't have to make them up because he was not Muslim at the time, and even if he had done so, his deeds won't be accepted. So therefore, he just has to make a sincere tawbah, come back to Allah, and Allah will forgive those sins. Muslimun balighun means that he's reached the age of puberty, right? He's of age, either through the signs that we talked about before, the growing of hair, the emission of semen, for a woman to have her period. Some scholars say if they reach the age of 15, all these are markers of puberty. If they have to reach that age. Also, he has to be aqil. He cannot be crazy. The Prophet ﷺ said that رفع القلم عن ثلاث النائم حتى يستيقظ والمجنون حتى يفيق والصبي حتى يبلغ. That the pen has been lifted upon three: the one who is asleep until he wakes up, the crazy one until he comes back to his senses, and the young child until he reaches the age of puberty. قادر على الصوم, able to fast, right? So this takes away those who are sick or unable to fast. So these are the requirements. He says ويؤمر به الصبي إذا أطاقه, that the young child should be ordered to do so if he's able. This is one of the opinions of the scholars, but the correct opinion, wallahu alam, because of the hadith I just quoted, it's not obligatory upon the children. But the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they used to encourage their children to fast, and even to the point sometimes, they're young children, they would start crying from hunger, and they'd give them toys to distract them from the hunger. basically to teach him from a young age the importance of fasting. So if you have a child, he's willing to do so and he wants to do so, it's okay. But it's different from salat. Salat, you have to order your child at the age of 7, and if he doesn't do it at the age of 10, he's supposed to be disciplined for doing that. Fasting is different. Fasting is, encouraged, highly encouraged, but it's not the same statute of salat for the kids. ويجب بأحد ثلاث أشياء. So it becomes obligatory Ramadan with 3 things. The Imam says 3 things. We'll talk about that and explain. It's really just 2. But he says كمال شعبان ورؤية الهلال ووجود غيم أو قطر ليلة الثلاثين. So he's saying there's 3 reasons that Ramadan should start. First of all, that Sha'ban is completed. You complete 30 days. Or on the 29th, you see at the nighttime the hilal, the moon. So that becomes the first day of Ramadan. After that, the next day, the night of Ramadan. Or he's saying if the sky has been covered, like with clouds or rain or something like that, you're unable to see the hilal. According to Imam Ahmed, because of his interpretation of one hadith, he says that you should fast. But the jumhur of the ulama say no, that's the day of shak and you should not fast that day. Because there's another narration, the Prophet ﷺ explained, من صام يوم الذي فإن غم عليكم فاقدروا له. If it becomes cloudy upon you, then فاقدروا له. This is the interpretation of Imam Ahmed. فاقدروا means kind of like constrict it, meaning 29 days. Count it as 29 and start Ramadan. But the correct interpretation, فاقدروا له 30. The Prophet ﷺ said count it as 30. So complete the day, that day of shak. Because it's haram to fast on the day of shak according to the jumhur of the ulama, especially for that reason. So you complete 30 days and then you go. So either you see the hilal, it's 29, you can start fasting, or you don't see the hilal and you count it as 30 and then you start fasting after 30 days. Seeing the moon, there's a difference in some books, maybe like 9 different opinions of this. It's basically like if you're in the same hemisphere or the same country or the same part of the country, or the imam of the country says such and such, the imam of the Muslim says such and such. There's many different opinions. It comes down to basically seeing the hilal in your area, or if some person sees it anywhere in the world, you fast according to that. Those are the main things. In terms of using calculations, it was not reported from the Salaf that they did such. Now I know it's a big thing in America, so it's a dispute amongst the scholars because in general you're supposed to follow the Jama'at that you're a part of, right? So if all the masajid in America agree to follow this certain way, should you differ from them, Allahu Alam, it's best to follow your local masjid, because the Prophet ﷺ said يوم صومكم ويوم فطركم, that the day of fasting is when you all fast, and the day of breaking the fast when you all break the fast, encouraging us to be part of the community, right? If you very strongly hold to the opinion that it has to be cited physically to fast, and there's a dispute in the area and you want to follow it, you can fast accordingly or not fast accordingly, but you shouldn't show it in front of the other people in that community that have a different opinion with you, right? And the best is always to follow your local community that you're going to pray with and you fast with. Wallahu a'lam. وَإِذَا رَأَى الْهِلَالُ وَحْدَهُ صَامَ. So according to the Jumhur, if somebody, one reputable, just, truthful Muslim sees the hilal, you can fast according to that, because the Prophet ﷺ, he accepted the shahada of Abdullah ibn Umar. He saw the hilal by himself, and the whole Muslims fasted according to that. But the Jumhur also say for breaking the fast, you need 2 acceptable witnesses. فإن كان عادلا صام الناس بقوله ولا يفطر إلا بشهادة عدلين ولا يفطر إذا رآه وحده. So basically, if he's a trustworthy person, adil means not fasiq. So fasiq, you can be fasiq. A person can be fasiq in their speech. They're always saying foul language or bad stuff or liars or stuff like that. He's considered fasiq in the speech. A person can be fasiq in their actions. For example, they don't pray or they do stuff that's haram in front of other people. That's considered fasiq in the action. Or he can be fasiq in his i'tiqad. He can have a wrong belief about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be entrenched in innovations and wrongdoings. So any one of those is considered fisq and their shahada is not accepted, right? You can be 1 or 2 or 3 of those things. The shahada is not accepted. It has to be adl in his statements, in his actions, and in his i'tiqad. So to accept the shahada. If one adl person is testifies to the seeing the moon, you're allowed to fast for that. Everybody can fast, and he has to fast for that, right? Um, there are some instances, for example, like the scholars of astronomy and of the deen, obviously, and somebody comes and tells them they saw the hilal, but there's no way they could have seen the hilal. The scholar cannot accept that, even though that person might be adl in general, but he might have made a mistake. It might have just been appeared to him, or he looked. For example, say the imam will go and ask him, where did you see it? How did it look like? Etc. A bunch of questions. So if he said that he saw it in this area and there's no way it could have been that area, or it was this characteristic, there's no way it could be that characteristic, the imam does not have to accept that shahada, right? So it should be someone that has shahada, that takes the shahada is adl, but he's also decently well versed or knowledgeable to know what the hilal is. For breaking the fast, even if you see it yourself, the hilal, but not another person with you, you're not supposed to break the fast. You have to have two people to break the fast. And there's ahadith that support that opinion. وَإِنْ صَامُوا بِشَهَادَةِ اثْنَيْنِ 30 يَوْمًا أَفْطَرُوا. And so if two people, just adl people, saw the hilal and you fasted according to their witnessing, and 30 days comes, you should break your fast after 30 days, right? وإن كان بغيم أو قول واحد لم يفطروا إلا أن يروه أو يكمل العدة. If you had started the fast with only one person, or it was cloudy, this is according to the madhab of Imam Ahmed rahimahullah, then in that case you do not break the fast until you completed the 30 days, right? Or you see the hilal again. So it's like you might have made, the reason he's saying that is because that person might have made, one person, or the cloudiness, the person might have made a mistake and started early, for example, and Ramadan didn't really start yet. So therefore you'd have to make, according to Imam Ahmed, the madhab, that you would continue in fasting one more day. وإذا اشتبهت الأشهر على الأسير تحرى الصام وصام فإن وافق الشهر أو ما بعده أجزاء وإن وافق قبله لم يجزي. So say a person is captive in jail, in prison, under the ground, for example. He can't see what date is exactly. He can't see the hilal. So he's estimating. The Imam says if he estimated correctly, like he started when the Muslims started, it counts for him. But if he started, after or before, it doesn't count. If he started at or after, his fasting counts for him as Ramadan. But if he started before that fast, the day before, it doesn't count. So he has to make it up, right? Because if Ramadan hasn't come in, you can't count it yet. Is that clear?
But then again, how would he know?
He wouldn't know, but if he was told afterwards, like he said, I fasted 30 days, starting from this time until now, and then he came out, for example, and they said, no, Ramadan didn't start until this day, he has to make up those other days because Ramadan hasn't started officially yet. So Ramadan cannot be 31 days according to the majority of scholars. Obviously it can only be 29 or 30 days. If a person makes a mistake and he's in that situation or if he travels to another country, he can, if it's a mistake, make it up and fast that day. It won't really be 31 days for him. It'll be 30 days because that first day wasn't Ramadan. If he's in a country, he traveled, for example, and he had started before, and he already, for sure he was correct, he can just break the fast on his own if he wants and then have the Eid with them, but don't do it in front of the people. Is that clear? Okay, المفطرين في Ramadan, those who are able to break the fast in Ramadan, right? There's 4 main categories, and we'll go through them inshallah. So, يباح الفطر في رمضان لأربعة أقسام. Breaking the fast in Ramadan is permissible for 4 types of people. The first one, المريض الذي يتضرع به والمسافر الذي له القصر فالفطر لهما أفضل وعليهما القضاء وإن صام أجزاءهما. So he says that if an ill person, the first category is those who are sick, and if they fast, it's going to make them worse, or it's going to hurt them if they fast, right? Or if they are traveling, right? It's permissible for these people to break their fast. If they break their fast, they should make it up, obviously. They have qada upon them. So it's permissible for them to break fast if you're sick, especially if it's going to make you worse, or it's going to cause you hardship. And if you're traveling, you have the permission to break the fast as well, right? Traveling in which you can shorten the prayers. Allah Azza wa Jalla, he said, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. That whoever is sick or upon a jury, whoever witnesses the month, he has to fast, right? But if you are sick or upon a journey, then you can make up these days. You can break your fast because Allah, He wants ease for you, and He doesn't want hardship for you. So some scholars say that if it will cause harm for you, it's better for you to break your fast, either you're sick through sickness or through traveling. Like the Prophet ﷺ said, "لَيْسَ مِنَ الْبِرِّ الصِّيَامُ فِي السَّفَرِ," that it's not from righteousness to fast in traveling. Right, and then other scholars, they put the statements together and they say if you're able to do so and it's not going to bother you or not make you worse, and you have the strength to do so, like the Imam says, it's permissible for you to do so, right? And the scholars, they put it together, like if you're able, it's not going to cause you hardship, it's better for you to fast. وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, right? It's better for you to fast. But if it's going to cause you hardship or you're weak, like the Prophet ﷺ told this man who was weak and suffering and trying to fast, and he had the permission to break his fast, it's better for you to break your fast, right? And the Sahaba were on a journey once, and some of them were fasting, they kept their fast, and some of them broke their fast, and none of them blamed each other. Like they didn't say, why are you breaking your fast? It's not that hard. And the others didn't say, like, why are you fasting? You're making it too hard upon yourselves, right? They let each other be because both are permissible. So therefore, even if a person is not going to get too tired or not going to be harmed too much by traveling nowadays, because we travel in the airplane, right? You can't say, oh, you can't fast. No, he has the permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to break your fast as long as you're considered a traveler, right? And sometimes even traveling in modern things, it causes hardship for a person. He misses his family, he's worried, he's going to a new place, he's, has a lot of thoughts. So it's a rukhsa from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's allowable for us if we need to use that rukhsa. The second category is the ha'id wa nufasa. تفطران وتقضيان وإن صامتا لم يجزئهما. The woman who is on her menstrual cycle, or she is in a postpartum bleeding, she has had a child, and she's, afterwards there's the bleeding from that, they are not allowed to fast. They're not supposed to fast, and they have to make it up, right? And the hadith of Aisha we talked about before, that the woman asked, why do we not make up the salat, but we have to make up the fasting? Do we have to make up the salat too? And she said, are you a hurari, which is like one of these deviant places from deviancy? And she said, no, I just want to know. And he said, because we were ordered to make up the fast, and we're not ordered to make up the salat. That's from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when she is finished from her menstrual cycle or finished from the postpartum bleeding, then she can make up the fasting. The third category, and it's haram for her to actually fast according to the majority of scholars. Like, she's not, even if she did fast, it doesn't count for her, so she shouldn't do so, obviously, during that time period. The third category is حامل والمرضع إذا خافتا على أنفسهما أفطرتا وقضاتا وإن خافتا على ولديهما أفطرتا وقضاتا وأطعمتا عن كل يوم مسكينا. So the third category is for the woman who is pregnant or breastfeeding. If she fears for herself and her child, or fears for herself only, then she has to make up the fast afterwards. She can break her fast and make it up afterwards. If the scholar, he distinguishes here, if she fears just for the child, not for herself, like she's able to do so, it's no problem, but she fears that it might harm the child, she has to, according to the tafsir of Ibn Abbas and some other scholars, that she has to make up the fast and feed a poor person for each day she misses. Right? You see the difference between the two cases? Okay, alhamdulillah. The fourth category is al-ajiz an al-siyam لكبر أو مرض لا يرجى براؤه فإنه يطعم عنه عن كل يوم مسكينا. The old person of old age, it's very difficult for them, they can't bear the fasting anymore, or a sickness that they don't hope for a cure, that they don't expect to have a cure from it, right? Whether it be, like, for example, a severe case of diabetes, or some type of liver, some type of very, very low blood pressure, different types of diseases that they don't feel they're not going to be able to get cured from it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it permissible for them to feed a poor person for every day that they break the fast as an exchange for that. So those are the four main categories. For everybody else, basically, وَعَلَى سَائِرِ مَنْ أَفْطَرَ قَضَاء لَا غَيْرٍ. Like anybody who misses a fast, intentionally or unintentionally, you have to make it up, basically, fasting. No other excuse. Except for the one who breaks his fast through sexual intercourse. In that case, he has a special ruling, which is If he did it on purpose, obviously with intention, he knows better. He will have to fast 60 days. Free either free the a slave person, fast 60 days continuously, or feed 60 poor people in that order, right? Some scholars say for each time he does it, he has to do a kafara. So some scholars say if he does it more than once in the same day, he just has to do one kafara. Others say no, each time he does it, he has to do the kafara until So if each time is 60 days, 60 days, 60 days. If he's able to do so, obviously. But because it's a very severe sin to violate the sanctity of this month, right? That's why the Maliki and the Shafi'iyya, they say that if a person has any ejaculation intentionally, like through masturbation or messing around with a woman or something like that, and any form that causes the one to have the ejaculation, they say that the same punishment or the same basically remedy is required for him as well, right? But the stronger opinion, wallahu alam, it's basically sexual intercourse with a woman, meaning the private part of the man enters into the private part of the woman. In that case, it becomes this punishment happens, right? And there's a hadith of an Arabi. He came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, ahlakt, I was destroyed. And the Prophet ﷺ said, what happened? And he said, I had relationships with my wife. So he knew it was wrong, right? If a person doesn't know it's wrong, like for example, he's new to Islam, he just became Muslim, or he's just ignorant, he doesn't know better, he doesn't have to follow this punishment. He just has to make up the day, and then he's explained to him, obviously. But if a person knows better, this is what happens. So the Prophet ﷺ said, can you free a servant, a slave? He couldn't do so. He said, can you fast 60 days? He said, I'm old, I can't fast. I'm weak, I'm not able to fast. He said, can you feed 60 poor people? He said, I'm not able to do so. I'm poor myself, right? So the Prophet ﷺ waited to see what should the ruling should be, and then somebody came and brought a bunch of dates to Medina to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ said, here, take this and give it to the 60 poor people, feed 60 poor people. And he said that I'm the poorest household in all of Medina and the surrounding area. Why should I give it to somebody else? And the Prophet ﷺ, he started laughing and he said, okay, go ahead and give it to your family, basically. So the scholars derive from that, it's based upon the ability. So if a person is healthy, obviously the slavery is not around, and it was like one of the alternatives because Islam encouraged the freeing of slaves, obviously. But we don't have that in this case, so it's basically either fasting 60 days together or feeding 60 poor people, right? And if you're unable to do so, then you just make tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make up the day, and then, hopefully Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you. But it's based upon ability. If you're able to do so, Allah knows you're able to do so, you have to do that. That's the punishment or expiation for the violation that you committed. Right. فإن جامع ولم يكفر حتى جامع ثانية فكفارة واحد فإن كفر ثم جامع فكفارة الثانية. Basically he's saying what we just said, if that he had intercourse and did not expiate it before he had intercourse again in the same day, he doesn't have to do two kafaras, he does one kafara. But if he does, he started one, he does expiation for it, and he does it again, he has to do a whole another expiation for the other one as a violation. وكل من لزمه الإمساك في رمضان فجامع فعليه كفارة. Anyone who is required to abstain from the nullifiers of fasting in Ramadan and has intercourse should have the expiation for him. Like he should do what we talked about basically. That day doesn't count, obviously. He has to make that day up, and he has to do the expiation, which is 60 days on top. Is that clear?
What do you mean that if someone, even if they just break it by eating secretly?
If you break it eating your secret, no, you have to just make that day up. That's it, yeah. But the punishment, the severity of it is basically like you can never really make it up because you've lost the month now. Ramadan is gone, right? So if you did a sin intentionally breaking your fast, it's like there's almost no expiation. You still have to make it the qada, but the ajr will never be achieved because you don't do it. If you have an excuse, obviously you can make it up, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us that mercy. We talked about the 4 different ways or the 4 different categories. You make it up as soon as you're able to. You don't. Some scholars say, like, say for example, you missed 3 days in a row, right? Do you have to do it 3 days in a row too when you make it up or not? 2 opinions, but the stronger one, Allahu A'lam, you don't have to do it together. You can just make it up as you want, and you don't have to make it up right away. They make qiyas upon the paying back of a debt. The paying back a debt is obligatory upon you, but you don't have to do it all in one installment or all right away. You can pay it back, at a later date. So also Aisha radiallahu anha, she used to, have to make up her fasting, and sometimes she would wait till the month before Ramadan to make them up. So the scholars derive from that. You don't have to do it right away, but it's better, because it's a dain upon you, or a debt upon you, that you should try to fulfill it as soon as you can, as soon as you're able to, because you don't know what's going to come, and it's better to get that, taken care of. If you pass away before, I think he'll talk about that. ومن أخر القضاء لعذر حتى أدركه رمضان آخر فليس عليه غير القضاء وإن فرط أطعم مع القضاء لكل يوم مسكينا. If somebody delays fasting Ramadan until the next Ramadan comes, out of laziness, for example, or even if he has an excuse, nothing is required from him. He still just makes it up after that Ramadan, right? Like say he was sick or he was traveling or something like that. He fasts that Ramadan and he makes it up right after that Ramadan. It's okay. But some scholars say that if you had an excuse, if you didn't have an excuse, and you just were lazy and you didn't take advantage of it, and then Ramadan came, then you should make up that day and also expiate it with a payment to feed a poor person as well. And that's I won't say obligatory, but maybe just preferred, to kind of cover or expiate that, not being diligent and making up the fast. وإن ترك القضاء حتى مات لعذر فلا شيء عليه. If he leaves the qada, making up the fast, until he passes away because of an excuse, there's nothing upon him. He's forgiven, inshallah. وإن كان لغير عذر أطعم عنه لكل يوم مسكينا. If it was for other than a permissible excuse, like he had no excuse basically, somebody from his families or dependents or close ones to him should pay and feed one poor person from every day that he missed. إلا أن يكون الصوم منظورا فإنه يصام عنه وكذلك كل نذر طاعة. Except if he had made another, it's like an oath that he would do such and such fasting on such and such day, for example, and he died before that happened, the family member should fast for him on that day to make up for that oath. It's better.
Like how many days?
I mean, if it's known, if it's not known, then you can't make it up. But yeah, if you knew, for example, Ramadan, you can, how many days he died in Ramadan, you can pay the, feed a poor person for those times. If it's another, you heard him make another, what day he should do it, and you can do it for him, or you could pay the poor person as well, right? It's not obligatory upon the other people, but it's just preferred for them to take care of that debt for the Muslim, like, taking care of, like the Prophet ﷺ, one of the Sahabas, they owed some money, and he went and prayed janazah for him. So another Sahabi came and paid the debt for that Sahabi, and then the Prophet ﷺ prayed for him. Right, so it's encouraged for Muslims to take care of the debt of the other Muslims, especially if you're a close family member, right? Likewise, if the person has to make Hajj, you had a chance he died before making Hajj, and you're his son, one of the ways to be pious to your, if you have piety towards your parents, you can make the Hajj for them, for your father, for your grandfather. They're unable to do so. For example, they died before they're able to do so. It's encouraged in Islam for the family and the awliya of the person to take up this dain, so he can be, in a good state in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the first chapter. Basically, next week we'll try to finish up and talk about the acts that invalidate the fasting, and if we get a chance to get into the i'tikaf as well and finish the chapter, Wallahu a'lam, inshallah. I just wanted to get it in before Ramadan starts, so hopefully it's of benefit. It's good to know the ahkam of the ibadah you're doing. We have those things that corrupt or break the fasting, the voluntary fasting, and then i'tikaf. So inshallah we'll be able to cover it next week, and we'll finish Kitab al-Siyam. We finish Kitab al-Tahara. We'll go back after Ramadan if Allah allows us a chance, inshallah, and start Kitab Salat after that. Inshallah, try to finish at least the 5 arkan, and if we can go further, alhamdulillah. If not, we'll pick another book. We'll see. Any questions? Yeah.
So when you pay back your song, when you feed a poor person, how do you feed them? Like, is there time or money amount?
Yeah, I mean, ideally on the day that a person is missing, if you're missing it, you're not able to for sickness reasons, that day of Ramadan, each day you pay either one poor person per day. So you can either cook for them a meal, or you can give them something equivalent to a meal of food that they can have, or a certain measurement of dates or rice or something like that to expiate, for. And each day, a different poor person is preferable if you can do so. And it's the scholars, they say that it should be Muslims. It's first and foremost, the Muslim ummah, the poor people from the Muslim ummah, because they're, your fellow brothers and sisters in their religion, obviously, and that's what the expectation is, to help them, because for your obligations, basically. Wallahu alam. You can, even like in the past, they'd invite people to their home to feed them and stuff like that. It's a nice gesture, especially for the poor people in Ramadan. They don't have much to eat, so you give them, you're helping them. When you help somebody break the fast too, it's like you fasted. You know that hadith, right?
Well, what time would you sight the moon? Would it be like...
It's right after Maghrib, the first sighting, and it's a very short gap, like 15 minutes maybe or something like that. You see a very thin sliver of the moon, and that's the hilal. And if anybody sees that, on the the 29th day of Ch.1 would be either the 30th day after that or the first day of Ramadan, the night of Ramadan. If you see that hilal, it starts the fasting, and they start Tarweeh that night as well. Yeah. And it's nice, like that's why, and then in a lot of the Muslim countries and in the old days, like even here, some people still try to follow. Everybody goes out that night and tries to sight the moon. That's sunnah to do so. So it's a good sunnah. And then there's du'as that you can make, and if you see the hilal and stuff like that, inshallah. But it's because the Prophet ﷺ, he said that we are an illiterate people. We don't, read or write or do arithmetic or something like that in the narration. And the month is like, this he did 30 days, or like this, 29 days, right? So it's not complicated. It shouldn't be complicated.
Ta'abudi, you sight the moon. It's not like...
It's I don't know, because it's a big difference amongst the scholars in those opinions and stuff like that. So I think the obligation of sticking to the Jama'at and following and having fasting with them and breaking fast with them, the masjid that you're a part of, the community that you're a part of, is more important than the bickering over when the hilal is. Because some people get so caught up in that and even get into like disputes and arguments and fights over it. And it's like I understand, trying to be keen on following the sunnah and but if there's ikhtilaf amongst the salaf in terms of establishing, I'm not going to get too into it, but basically the best thing, if you can, follow your local community and stick with them, inshallah, so you won't have differences and you won't have like, it's not nice the whole community is, for example, doing Eid and the person's fasting. It's not befitting, of the Jama'ah. So, one day, inshallah, hopefully there'll be like a unified scholarly fatwa that everybody just, especially nowadays it's easier because we can have instant communication. I can talk to you anywhere in the world at, real time, like right now. So if somebody sees it, just Muslim sees it in one part of the world, it's conveyed to the scholars and everybody just fast. That would be so nice, like, we wouldn't have all these disputes. But maybe when Isa alayhi salam comes, or the Mahdi, or Allah alam, before that, maybe we'll see, inshallah. Yeah, every year is a perennial debate. Even before the calculation issue, it was the issue of matala'. Are you in the same hemisphere or area or not? Or the same country, or if we're gonna follow such and such country, we're gonna follow such and such country, and every year is something new. Like, I don't know. Yeah, so that basically just to get away from this, focus on the ibadah. You're following the ijtihad of imam. Inshallah, if he was correct, he gets one reward, or two rewards. If he was incorrect, he gets one reward. But as lay people, we follow the scholars and their their ijtihad, inshallah, and try our best to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. طيب, stop here, inshallah. Get ready for salah. Jazakumullah khair. See you all next Wednesday, bi'idhnillah. And if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to ask. Assalamu alaikum.